Some of the best advice I've received, I actually got as a student. Phil McMaster was our philosophy teacher, and we had Phil's rules. And some of those rules were things like keep it simple, stupid. And chiropractic is a pretty simple thing. A lot of chiropractors overcomplicate it. They want to be different, want to be special. And so we'll start heading down a direction to be different when the core of what we do is pretty simple and very, very effective. So that keep it simple, stupid, I think applies in so many different ways. As human beings, we have a tendency to overcomplicate a lot of things. If you're taking something that's pure, fairly simple, which is chiropractic, roll with that. We don't need to change it because it's incredible the way it is.
Well, welcome to the Vitalistic Voice, everyone. I'm Dr. Colin Elkin, and today I'm so excited because this is actually Good Friday for Dr. Kelly Holt, and we're on the opposite side of the world at this point. I think he's about 16 hours ahead of me down in Auckland, New Zealand, and but I'm so excited to have Dr. Holt with us today, and he is currently the president of New Zealand College of Chiropractic. So we're going to have some really inspiring conversation today. We're going to hear about his history and we're going to hear about the mission and direction of New Zealand College of Chiropractic. So, Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for spending your Good Friday with me.
It's great to be here with you today, Colin.
Well, thank you. So, I'd love to just kind of start because, obviously I grew up in Canada and I'm sure that the culture in New Zealand, especially when we talk about chiropractic, is probably very unique, and I'm totally unaware. So I would love to hear how a Kiwi like yourself gets inspired to become a chiropractor. What happened in your life?
Well, it really came from going to see a chiropractor when I was young. I was probably 9, 10 years old, had a lot of headaches, and my mum used to see a chiropractor and she took me along, and I got checked and adjusted, and my headaches went away. And I thought, well, what a wonderful thing. Chiropractors cure headaches. And so spent years going to the chiropractor because he made my headaches go away. And then I got to the end of high school and I knew I wanted to go to university, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I didn't want to commit to something without being sure about it. So I thought I'll take a year off. I'll work in a terrible job in a supermarket, getting paid no money and starting at 6 in the morning and finishing at 9 at night. So I didn't get too comfortable. I'll take that year to think about what I want to do before committing to university. So I'm getting to the end of that year and I went in to see my chiropractor and he said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I still don't know. I've got all of these options I'm thinking about. And he said, well, there's a chiropractic school opening in Auckland next year. I think you'll make a great chiropractor. Why don't you apply? And I hadn't really considered it all that much previously. You had to travel overseas to become a chiropractor. I hadn't thought too much about it. But when I was reflecting on the time that I'd spend with him, he was always upbeat and happy, and there was vibrant people around his office. It wasn't people limping around with, looking like they've got back pain. He was always buzzing, and I thought that just seems like a great job. So I went home that night, pulled out the Encyclopedia Britannica because there was no internet to read up more about chiropractic. And in the encyclopedia, it talked more than neck pain and headaches or back pain. It actually gave a decent overview of chiropractic from more of that traditional BJ Palmer type of perspective, and it really resonated with me. So put in an application that night, went and dropped it off the next day, and started at the New Zealand College of Chiropractic when it opened in 1994.
That's amazing. Fantastic. And so that was the very first year that it opened. And so tell me, so your experience at New Zealand College of Chiropractic, who was the president back then in 1994?
When it first opened, it was Jim Stanier. So he was the real driving force who really pushed the college through. We had Jim who would teach us technique. Bernadette Murphy, who's an incredible scientist who we still work with, she would teach us a science component, and Phil McMaster would teach philosophy. And Phil's an incredible philosopher. So we had great teachers from the very beginning. The college was kind of flying by the seat of its pants because we were making up the curriculum as we went along. So it was a hell of a journey, but it really helped shape me as a chiropractor. And also, being in that pioneer class, um, there's a few obstacles you've got to overcome. And we really came together. And, my best mates now are the people I went to school with, 30 years ago.
Wow. And so tell me, after chiropractic college, what was your direction? Did you get out into the profession right away? Did you open your own practice or associate with somebody?
I associated with someone, so I got into practice right away. Became an associate. Very quickly after I became an associate, the principal chiropractor was appointed president of the college. So I was a little bit by myself as an associate, but had his guidance. So I was in practice for 10 years, but very soon after I graduated, I wanted to give back to the college. One of the great things about coming through, excuse me, in that first class was seeing how many people were donating their money, their time, their talent to educate me as a chiropractor. And I felt that I needed to give back as well to the people coming behind me. So started working 3 hours a week as a clinic supervisor. And what tends to happen when you put your hand up at a chiropractic college is you get dragged in a little bit more each year. So I went from 3 hours to six, and then can you come and teach a class? Yeah, sure I can. And then probably about 20 years ago, 21, 22 years ago, I started doing a bit of research. And this was all unpaid. It was sort of a hobby, but really enjoyed the research side of things. And then Heidi Horvath came on board in, I think, 2006, 2005, 2006, and really started driving our research program. And I was excited. So started doing more and more work with Heidi, doing research, and it dragged me more out of practice until I got to that stage of either I need to be all in or all out because I don't have the time to put into practice and I didn't want to do a half-assed effort. So I ended up enrolling in my PhD. So I was full-time doing my PhD teaching and didn't have that time for practice. So 10 years in practice, and every year I miss it and threaten to get back into it. It's just trying to make the time, and the week is a challenge at the moment. But I became heavily involved in research and loved that. Helped Heidi drive the research program at the college, which has now become really world leading. And then, if we fast forward a few years, I was appointed president of the college in 2021.
Amazing. And you brought up Heidi's name, and Heidi Havoc has become infamous in the profession. She is one of the most sought after speakers I know at many seminars, and I've seen her a few times. And I mean, Heidi has such an energy about her. Not to mention, I mean, she's brilliant when it comes to the research part of it, and she's so animated to talk to and unfiltered, which is awesome. If anybody's ever seen Heidi and knows Heidi, and I'd love to have her on the podcast, she's completely unfiltered, which I love. But that is really, and what would you say? I mean, that your research program at New Zealand, I believe, is comparable to any other school in the profession as far as subluxation-based, neurologically focused research. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, we're really proud of the research that we do, and it's all about understanding the impact of subluxation on the nervous system, impacts of chiropractic care, so adjustments. And we really want to understand better how chiropractic works and how well it works, what impact it has. So we've been working hard for 20 something years and building this research team, and we've currently got about 35 people in our team. It's just blows us away that we've been able to build this, and we have the opportunities now to pretty much do any type of study that we want because we've got talent across the board. And some of the studies that are going to be coming out over the next couple of years that we've already done, we've got the data for them. To me, they're just groundbreaking. They're really telling a story about chiropractic that backs up that traditional view, the vitalistic view of chiropractic. We don't really focus a lot on anything to do with back pain, neck pain, and headaches. It's more about understanding the impact of chiropractic care on nervous system function. And it's a cool story that's developing.
And it was so inspiring. And I have to say, so I met you the first time. It was in Toronto, and you were doing a student information night for the Zealand College of Chiropractic. And my youngest son, youngest of four boys, is interested in going to chiropractic school. My oldest son is a chiropractor. He went to Life, and
Mhm.
my youngest son is interested in following in our footsteps, which I'm so proud of. And I mean, I hope that is his direction if that's something he's passionate about. And he was really inspired at hearing you talk because he's grown up in that principle, which I think is so fun to hear you talk about that. So tell me, what are some of the challenges in taking that position? Obviously, because and maybe you would agree that in the aspect of chiropractic schools throughout the world, having a school that's very vitalistically, subluxation based, neurologically focused is rare. Am I correct in saying that? And what are your challenges in taking that position?
Um, I think. we've got enough runs on the board that we're not facing as many challenges as we used to. So when our college was set up, um, one of the reasons it was set up was chiropractors in New Zealand. We had a small profession. We had 125 chiropractors in New Zealand, and it had stayed constant for quite some time. And most of those chiropractors were coming from the States. So, Palmer College and then later on Sherman College, and had a particular flavor of chiropractic, more of the vitalistic flavor. Um, in the sort of 80s and 90s, more chiropractors were starting to come from Australia, which is our next door neighbor. Their flavor of chiropractic is more mechanistic. And so some of the older school chiropractors decided we needed to set up a college ourselves that taught chiropractic the old school way, the science, the art, philosophy. So they did that. And one of the benefits of being in New Zealand is it's a couple of islands. We've got our own little ecosystem here. So to begin with, we had a number of people involved with the college who were on the chiropractic board or chiropractic association, and so there was quite a lot of pushback from parts of the profession who were, well, we shouldn't have a college. We're too small for that. We shouldn't have a college with that focus. But our founders were determined. They were going to set up this college. It was going to respect the science, art, and philosophy of chiropractic, and they were going to push it through no matter what. And we faced some pretty big hurdles from our chiropractic board and accreditation agencies. So at the beginning, in that first class, as I was getting towards graduation, we didn't have accreditation. In those days, you had to wait till your final class was ready to graduate and then get your accreditation. So we were leading into that. We were going through the accrediting process, and they turned us down at that first attempt. So we had the course positioned as a master's degree, and it had a very big research component to it. But in the New Zealand educational environment, there was a bit of, we're not going to have one of these upstarts and let them provide a master's degree when GPs only get a bachelor's degree. So the accreditation was turned down, which left us in a somewhat precarious position because would we be able to practice or not? So with quite a lot of wrangling with the chiropractic board and some legal stuff going on, uh, what we came to was an agreement where my class had to sit in basically an exit exam from one of the Australian colleges, which, very different style of education to what we had had. We were very focused on subluxation correction, detection and correction of subluxation. And from a diagnostic point of view, it was more identifying someone who needed to go somewhere else. But it was very much focused on providing chiropractic care as best we could. And what we had to do was have 70% of our class pass this exam from an Australian college. If we did, we were then eligible to sit the board exams and we could practice. So we had a crash course with about 3 months where we all got together and we studied the curriculum of this Australian college. We had some outside lecturers come over. Val Panaccio, she was incredible. She came over and helped us out. Colin Crawford came over from Australia, and we just crammed all the knowledge in that we could to pass this exam. And it was, you'd wake up in the morning, you'd go through till 4 o'clock the next morning with your classmates, have a 2 or 3 hours sleep, and then start going again. And 71% of us passed. So we were able to uh, sit the board exams, which weren't that challenging, and start practicing. So that was a major obstacle. We didn't even know if we were going to be able to get into practice. But then over the subsequent 25 years, the majority of chiropractors practicing in New Zealand have graduated from our college. So we've gone from 125 chiropractors to about 800, and three-quarters of them have come through our college. So have that same flavor of chiropractic, the way that we practice. And graduates from our college are now on the chiropractic boards, are now running the Chiropractic Association. So we've got that flavor across New Zealand at all levels. So that's taken away a lot of the challenges. And with the accreditation agency CCEA that we're a part of, they've actually been very good. They've been open to embracing all types of chiropractic care and don't really give us too many problems. They're very supportive with what we do, and we fly through accreditation these days. So lots of obstacles along the way, and I feel like we're in a very privileged position at the moment, being in New Zealand. and we're really standing on the shoulders of those giants who came before and set it up for us. So yeah, I think we're in a very privileged position.
Well, I give you huge congratulations on that. I'm sure that's been quite a journey and obviously a lot of work and probably some stress, but well done. Congratulations. I'm sure you've been a very big part of that. So currently at New Zealand, having a very subluxation based program, what type of techniques do you focus on teaching students?
It's interesting because when I came through the college, we had more of an eclectic technique, which was really made up of uh, Palmar upper cervical, diversified Gonstead. That was pretty much it. We had one drop table that you could use occasionally, but very manual techniques and quite an upper cervical focus. But they were put together in an NZCC package. And as we developed further, there was a call from someone in the profession, well, saying that our graduates, you don't know how to practice Gonstead properly because you're doing this eclectic thing. You don't know how to do Thompson properly because you only, dabble with it. So we moved towards more of those named technique packages, the ones we've already talked about, throw in activator, put in Thompson. So all of our students learnt a whole bunch of technique packages and became a proficient at all of them. Then over the years, what we realized is if you're teaching these different technique packages to students, you're looking at the subluxation indicators. It might mean one thing in one package and something else in another package, and that just gets too confusing. So we've gone full circle and come back to very much a similar approach to technique that we had when I went through 30 odd years ago. So again, quite a heavy focus on Gonstead diversified upper cervical. We really want to nail all of the manual techniques so that our graduates are very, very proficient at the manual techniques while giving them the options of doing some of the other techniques, like activator and Thompson. But we want to make sure that they're proficient at the manual techniques first, and then when they graduate, they can focus on whatever they want to be focusing on.
Excellent. And I know both you and David Schreiner at that night that we were there were talking about the fact that you have an extended program for the students going through their clinic requirements. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, we have a minimum number of visits is 500 that they have to see, which I believe is the most of any college in the world. And one of our big focuses is really reinforcing that that is a minimum. That's not the target. That is the minimum that we think is acceptable for you to graduate. And part of our strategic plan at the moment, which we're just bringing in, is to lift the average number of visits first to 750 and then to 1,000 before you graduate from our college. It's the development of the technique. The more spines you get your hands on, the better, obviously. The more practice you have at adjusting, the better. But it's also the communication skills that you get from the interactions with the people that you're seeing. So we want our students to see as many people as possible and to be aiming for the stars. And that's to develop the proficiency in technique and providing chiropractic care, but it's also to take that with you when you get into practice because we don't want our graduates to be mediocre and seeing a handful of people. We want them to have as much impact as possible in their communities. So we're really trying to push our students to aim high so that they can take that with them into practice and have as big an impact as possible in their communities.
I love it, Kelly. That's fantastic. I've had the privilege of coaching many chiropractors over the years, the last 20 years, and in our practice, developing associates over those years, and that was something we focused on is their delivery of chiropractic, but their ability to communicate. And I always said that you could be the best chiropractor, you could be the best adjuster, but if you can't communicate the purpose of chiropractic or the principle of chiropractic, people don't get it. They still picture you as a treater of symptoms, a treater of pain. So I love the position that you're taking on that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's you've got to be able to communicate it, um, and have your patients spreading the word in your community because they understand it and they get it. That's where the gold is.
So one of the things that really inspired my son Curtis when he was there is that I believe you and David were both talking about the some of the programs that you do and mission-based trips that the college did. And I believe you were talking about taking a number of students somewhere to adjust a community. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we've been going to Rarotonga, which is one of the Cook Islands, for many years now. I can't remember when we started. It's probably 15, 18 years ago. And we would take an entire class over to Rarotonga and they would spend a week there checking and adjusting the people of Rarotonga who've got very limited healthcare. So, Rarotonga is an island sitting in the middle of the South Pacific. It's very much aligned with New Zealand. It's almost like a home away from home, um, but very limited as far as healthcare goes. I think there's about 7,000, 8,000 people on Rarotonga and not a lot of people providing healthcare. So we take a class over with us, and just set up in a couple of locations in Rarotonga, and people can come in and get checked as often as they want over the course of the week that we're there, or this year we're going to be there for 2 weeks, and it's an incredible experience. So we got back there last year for the first time in a few years because of the travel restrictions with COVID. And we only took a smaller class with us. We only had a small amount of time to prepare for it. So I think we took maybe 21 interns from the final year over, and we were only there for a week. But over the course of that week, I think there was about 800 different people came in, and they did 1,600 adjustment visits. And we'd turn up in the morning. It takes a little while for the word to get around that we're there, but we'd turn up in the morning and there'd be 50 people waiting to see the students. And I was just so proud of them, uh, the way that they were checking and adjusting these people. A lot of the people in Rarotonga are pretty big. Um, the I don't know if you use kilos or pounds in Canada, but imagine a 150 kilo guy sitting in front of this intern, and how am I going to do a side posture? And they were just nailing it. And one of the really cool experiences was, as word was getting around, one of the sites, one of the two sites that we're at, a bus turned up where someone had driven around the island and picked up 25 people who had severe disabilities, so intellectually, physically, disabled, serious issues going on, and brought these 25 people to our interns and wanted them to get under care. And you can imagine in the normal intern environment, chiropractic center at the college, you don't have a lot of people like that coming through the doors. But the interns got stuck in, communication was difficult. Many of them couldn't talk, so they were communicating with their caregiver. But to see them provide great chiropractic care to these 25 people, without missing a beat, was just fantastic.
I'm so glad you brought that up, and that was going to be my next question, is that the opportunity to go and serve in a place that's really underdeveloped or doesn't have the healthcare, they don't portray chiropractic as a treater of back pain. So, and I was going to ask, what do you recall in these mission trips as some of the greatest or most miraculous, eye-opening stories that have happened through you and some of the interns being there, and some of the conditions that presented, to the students to get some care?
Well, there's a lot of people who come in who've had strokes, for example, and we can be pretty scared of people who've had strokes, but they might have had a stroke a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and there was no more care that was going to be provided to them. So we'd have students adjusting these people with relatively new strokes, and they would see over the course of a week really big changes in them. And you expect that if it's a very new stroke, but it could be even someone who'd had a stroke a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and our students would see them progressing with their function returning over just the course of a week. Um, there's so many miracle stories that come out of places like that, and when we get to the end of the trips, we get our interns to share some of those stories, and they can just they're sharing them with tears coming down their faces because they've seen someone just a small handful of times and seen them move from a wheelchair to being able to walk. We have that quite frequently. And people who, if you look at back pain, that they might have put up with back pain for years, and then all of a sudden things are improving and they can be more mobile. But so many things where you just wouldn't see them in your home environment. They don't even end up at chiropractors because they're going to see a GP who says, don't go and see a chiropractor. They're going to give you a stroke. They're not going to help you with it. So, it's people coming in with severe diabetes, diabetic issues, and ulcers that are just weeping, and just getting on the table, and the students are checking and adjusting them. It's pretty cool.
I'm getting goosebumps listening to your story here, because I think a wonderful experience for the students to be able to experience that, and then to get into practice. All of a sudden, your ability to communicate chiropractic is at a whole different level, than if you had graduated from a college that doesn't offer that opportunity. So I give you tons of credit for that. What a fantastic experience for the students. So let's just talk about what is now the direction of New Zealand College of Chiropractic. Where are you going and what are you working on right now?
We're working on a lot. We're always focusing on our program, making sure that it's the best program possible. So each year we'll review the curriculum and make the tweaks that we need to make along the way to ensure that we're at the cutting edge with the way that we're teaching. So we've got our research program, which goes straight into the chiropractic program. So as results are coming out of studies, we want to weave those in straight away. We're constantly trying to improve the technique packages that we deliver in the technique program. We've moved more towards an integrated case-based learning. You know, if you go back a few years, a lot of our classes we're doing diagnosis now and we're doing endocrinology now, but we've gone to more of an integrated learning um, or teaching environment. So we're teaching based on a person who's presented to a chiropractor and taking them through their time under chiropractic care and all of the different things that you need to be considering. One of the other big things that we're looking at is how can we utilize technology in the way that we teach. So with our research department, one of the focuses there is developing technology that could be useful in a chiropractic office. So we're looking at various measures of autonomic nervous system function. Can we introduce EEG into the chiropractic practice? Because we want our students to be using as many objective measures as possible when they're evaluating the person in front of them. So, you know, we use the CLA Insight technology in the chiropractic center. We're developing all sorts of prompts and other objective measures that can help our students gauge improvement in the people they're seeing or not improvement. So they need to change what they're doing. But the people who are coming into the chiropractic center can also see how they're improving with those objective measures. So a lot of focus is ensuring that we're continually improving our course. Other things we're looking at setting up some postgraduate programs. When our students graduate, you know, we know that lifelong learning is very, very important. We want them to continue learning throughout their career. So we're looking at how we can support that by setting up postgraduate certificates, postgraduate diplomas, and master's degrees, and focusing on things like chiropractic for families, chiropractic for kids, chiropractic philosophy, neuroscience, and we're also looking at some streams in education to help educate our next educators who are going to be coming through, and also governance and leadership. So, you know, we're wanting to make sure that we have succession planning for leadership positions throughout our college and even going into the chiropractic board. So when people take on those positions, they're ready to go. So those are a few of the things that we're working on. Yeah, a lot of it's making sure that we're doing the best job possible at our college and that we have long-term sustainability there, and that we're investing back into our program as much as we can because it's all about the education of the students who are at our college. That's the most important thing.
Awesome, awesome. And I also understand that your college has an undergraduate program so that students coming out of high school, for example, can start their undergrad, do their prerequisites, and then migrate into the chiropractic program. Is that correct?
Yeah, previously you had to do at least 1 year of foundational health sciences elsewhere, and then you came into our program for 4 years. So we'd have a lot of students who either did 1 year or they might have done a kin degree in Canada, for example, and already had that degree under their belt and came to our college for the next 4 years. One of the things that we found with that foundational year, when they were doing it off campus at another university, they would enroll in that because they wanted to be a chiropractor. And we'd say, you can go and do this at the university there, but they wouldn't have any chiropractic flavor to that first year. It's a lot of basic sciences, often being taught from a physiotherapeutic perspective. And so we had a lot of students who just lost that enthusiasm for becoming a chiropractor because it was, well, have I got this for 5 years? So last year we were able to have the full 5 year program accredited. So we could take school leavers into the program and we could teach them that foundational year of basic sciences with a chiropractic lens. And we could also embed in there some foundational philosophy and some technique. So you're getting that head start on developing your understanding of chiropractic, but also the application of it. So it's worked out really, really well. Very, very popular. And you know, the success rate of that first year was very, very high. and they've gone into the second year program now with a massive head start compared to what we were doing previously. So we're really proud of that.
That's fantastic. Where do most of your students come from? Obviously, local students from New Zealand, but international students, where do they come from?
Mainly from Canada. So um, I was looking at the numbers the other day. Uh, about 90% of our international students come from Canada. So we aim for about two-thirds domestic and one-third international students. We know that international students really raise the bar for our domestic students. They've made that trip from around the world, they're committed to it, and often they'll become leaders in their class and they lift the whole class with them. And yeah, about 90% of those international students come from Canada. I think we've got that relationship, that Commonwealth sort of relationship. Um, and there's a lot of chiropractors in Canada who uh, refer potential students to us because they like the flavor of education that we deliver. You know, it's pretty different to what's on offer in Canada. And for some reason at the moment, Canadians don't seem to want to go across the border and go to the US colleges. I'm not sure why, but yeah, we've got a lot of interest from Canada, and that interest keeps growing. And we just love taking the Canadian students into our program. They're just leaders in the student community.
Awesome. And I do know a few graduates from NZCC and NZCC, as we say here in Canada, but and they're very, very solid foundationally with their philosophy for sure. So I give you tons of credit there. What's the total enrollment? How many students do you have currently?
We've got about 350, 360 students. So we had capped enrollment for a number of years. We'd capped it at 75 students in a class and didn't want to go above that. And we thought that was the right number. You know, we're a small country. We were always conscious of flooding the market in New Zealand with too many chiropractors. So we kept the numbers at 75. But then a few years ago, we realized that we weren't meeting the demand. So our graduates are picked up well before they graduate. Most of them have four, five, six job offers from around New Zealand and around the world. And we had chiropractors in New Zealand saying, I've been waiting 3 years for an associate and you haven't given me one. So what's up with that? So we've increased the number of students in each class from 75 up to about 100 is what we're looking at as the maximum number. So we're in a period of growth. I can't see us going above that number. We want to maintain that community feel at the college, which is very, very important to us, that family feel. Uh, but we also want to make sure that we are meeting the demand from the chiropractic profession in New Zealand and around the world, because our graduates are in hot demand around the world because they come out with those foundational skills in adjusting and with that philosophy underpinning what they do, which graduates from many other colleges don't have.
Awesome. Awesome. So just and I want to respect your time, obviously, but I wouldn't mind asking you a couple more questions, just with your opinion and with your experience. What would you say? Because I know we do have a lot of students who are considering careers in chiropractic, or we do have perhaps a lot of young doctors who have influence and would send students to different schools. What can you say, or what advice would you give to a student who was considering a career in chiropractic?
I would look very closely at the type of school that you're going to. What's the education like at that school? And does it align with your views on healthcare? Um, if I was thinking about a career in chiropractic, I would go and observe as many chiropractors as possible, see how they practice, see all the different ways of practicing, and see what aligns with the student. So if they're going to see a chiropractor who's practicing the way we would in a subluxation centered vitalistic way, if that's what appeals to them, make sure that they go to a college that's going to teach that. If they're more interested in a physiotherapeutic approach, then you probably shouldn't come to a college like ours. Go to a college that's going to teach more of that musculoskeletal physiotherapeutic approach. So if you can work out the type of chiropractor that you want to be, and that's through observing chiropractors and seeing what resonates with you, go from there. So that's probably my number one advice.
That's great advice. And I do know that some of the colleges offer prospective students a weekend where they will bring them down to the college and show them around and let them see some of the facilities. Does New Zealand have something like that?
We don't have something like that. We do open days at the college twice a year where we welcome students to the college mainly from around New Zealand. Occasionally people will come from overseas for that. But particularly for overseas students, we have a lot of career talks where we'll come together, going across Canada or other places around the world to give that little bit of experience of what the college is like. For the international students, we're so far away. It's a big call for them to come down for a weekend to experience what we have there. But we do welcome them, and sometimes that happens. We had a student a couple of years ago who was considering coming to New Zealand, and this was like on the Monday, and our Lyceum was happening that next weekend. And by the end of the call on the Monday, he'd booked a ticket to come down to Lyceum from Canada and had the time of his life down here at Lyceum and ended up coming to the college. We have open days. We do welcome people to the college. We don't necessarily do the red carpet weekends that some of the colleges do over in the States where they'll fly down the whole family, that sort of thing.
So here's a big question for you personally. What is the best advice that you've received through your career, through your development into chiropractic college, graduation, in practice, and then obviously requiring a whole new level of skills into this level of leadership that you're in now? What's the best advice that you've received during that time?
Really good question. I think some of the best advice I've received, I actually got as a student, and this was Phil McMaster was our philosophy teacher, and we had Phil's rules, and some of those rules were things like keep it simple, stupid. And chiropractic is a pretty simple thing, and I think a lot of chiropractors overcomplicate it. They want to be different, want to be special, and so we'll start heading down a direction to be different when the core of what we do is pretty simple and very, very effective. So that keep it simple, stupid, I think applies in so many different ways. As human beings, we have a tendency to overcomplicate a lot of things. If you're taking something that's pure, fairly simple, which is chiropractic, roll with that. We don't need to change it because it's incredible the way it is.
That's amazing advice. So, hey, thank you. Well, Dr. Kelly Holt, thank you so much for being on the Vitalistic Voice podcast. This has been very enlightening for me, and I'm sure for our viewers, and especially those who may be inspired and interested to pursue a career in chiropractic. I know if you're wanting to practice in a subluxation-based model, this would be a fantastic choice to make the trip and spend a few years in New Zealand to get your education there. So, any final thoughts for our viewers?
Well, we're just very, very proud of our program and we love welcoming chiropractic students from around the world to it. If you are interested in a vitalistic chiropractic career and you want to be trained as a vitalistic chiropractor, then give us a call.
Dr. Kelly, thank you so much. Words of wisdom. We appreciate you being here.
All right. Thanks, Colin.